Prologue. My tears fall silently as the healer delivers the news. I'm sorry, Iris Blackwood. The tests are conclusive. Not only will your wolf never emerge, but you will never bear children. The nursery I painted myself will remain empty. The tiny clothes folded with such hope will never be worn. My arms ache for what they'll never hold. Each night, I listen to my mate's footsteps fade as he seeks warmth in another's bed. In the darkness, I touch the cold sheets beside me, whispering apologies to the children I'll never give him. Pack members avert their eyes when I pass, my failure contagious, my pain uncomfortable. The white streak in my hair brands me, incomplete, unworthy. I curl into myself each night, a vessel meant to nurture life, left hollow and purposeless. Something is about to happen that will make them wonder. The weakest will shelter the strongest. The voiceless will speak the words that change everything. My emptiness isn't a void, it's a fortress built precisely for what's coming. And those who laugh loudest at my brokenness will be the first to beg for what only I can provide when the silver-eyed child arrives. The scent hit me first, vanilla and night-blooming jasmine, as I knelt in the herb garden, my worn gloves already stained with morning dew and soil. Celine. My fingers stilled among the wolfsbane leaves, my heart stuttering with recognition. Impossible. My cousin had been missing for over a year, presumed dead after fleeing an arranged mating. And yet, her distinctive fragrance lingered in the air like a ghost, taunting my senses. Couldn't even keep her mate's interest, let alone whelp his pups, carried a voice from the nearby training grounds, deliberately loud enough for me to hear. My hands trembled slightly before I steadied them, returning to the methodical separation of healing plants from weeds. Such comments were familiar companions now. The words might change, but the sentiment remained as constant as the silver-white streak in my otherwise raven hair, that visible mark of my difference, my failure. 8 years had passed since I came of age without my wolf emerging, 5 years since Gregor had taken me as mate in a political arrangement with my family, 3 years since he'd publicly declared me barren and taken his first of many lovers. I gathered my herbs into the weathered basket, keeping my gaze fixed on the ground as I traversed the outer perimeter of pack territory. A group of hunters returned through the main gates, their laughter cutting off abruptly as they noticed me. Gregor walked at their center, his powerful frame commanding attention, his scent, wood smoke and dominance, cutting through all others like a blade. Beside him, Amanda Foxglove pressed herself closer, her triumphant gaze sliding over me with undisguised contempt. I turned away, taking the long path to avoid them, the weight of my empty womb and silent wolf a constant ache beneath my ribs. My small room at the territory's edge welcomed me with its familiar isolation, meticulously organized herbs hanging from ceiling beams, each possession carefully placed, my only domain in a world where I held no value. The afternoon passed in the precise routine I'd constructed to minimize contact with the pack, delivering medicinal preparations to the healer's cabin during training hours, collecting permitted foods from the kitchen during hunting time, bathing in the creek upstream from the communal bathing pools. When I returned to my room as dusk painted the mountains purple, my body felt heavy with exhaustion that never quite masked the deeper hollowness inside. I pushed open my door and froze, immediately sensing that something was wrong. That scent again, stronger now, unmistakable, lingered in the air of my sanctuary. My heart galloped against my ribs as I searched the tiny space, finding nothing until I lifted my pillow. There, sealed with wax and bearing my cousin's distinctive scent, lay a letter. My fingers trembled as I broke the seal, unfolding the paper with reverent care. Dearest Iris, the familiar handwriting began, I need your help. Tomorrow's solar eclipse marks our only chance. Meet me at the old hunting cabin at midnight. Tell no one. Your emptiness is not a curse but a gift. Lives depend on your coming alone. I clutched the paper to my chest, my carefully constructed world suddenly fracturing around me. Celine alive. Celine needing me. Celine saying my greatest shame was actually a gift. These words scattered my thoughts like autumn leaves in a storm, while beyond my window, clouds gathered, obscuring the waxing moon that had never called to my wolf. For the first time in years, something sparked in my chest, something dangerous and warm that felt strangely like hope. Morning arrived with oppressive heaviness, the air dense with the coming eclipse. As I moved mechanically through my chores, my mind racing with questions that had no answers. "You're distracted today," observed Elder Thornwood, his ancient eyes shrewd as he watched me work at the healer's cabin. I forced my expression to neutrality, my heart rate suddenly accelerating beneath his penetrating gaze. "Just tired," I murmured, keeping my focus on the herbs I was bundling. "The changing moon disrupts my sleep." The elder hummed noncommittally. "The defective ones often sense things others miss," he said, his tone making it impossible to determine if he meant it as insult or observation. "The cracks let in the light." With that cryptic statement, he shuffled away, leaving me wondering if he somehow knew my plans. When the evening meal bell rang, I stayed away as usual, but took extra care with what little food they allowed me, selecting items that would travel well, slipping them into my pockets when the kitchen staff turned their backs. I packed a small bundle, a change of clothes, my most potent herbs, a knife I kept hidden beneath a floorboard. The coming eclipse would provide perfect cover. The pack would be gathered for the traditional house song. I would position myself at the circle's edge, then slip away when the moon vanished. As shadows began to creep across the moon, I took my position in the gathering circle, hood pulled low over my distinctive hair. Around me, pack members pressed closer, their wolves sensing the temporary extinction of their celestial mother. I felt the familiar hollow ache of exclusion, my own inner wolf forever silent, unmoved by the lunar spell that entranced the others. When darkness swallowed the moon completely, I backed away from the circle, the pack's unified howl covering the soft crunch of pine needles beneath my boots. Freedom tasted strange on my tongue as I moved through the darkened forest, following paths remembered from childhood adventures. The old hunting cabin waited in a small clearing, its weathered logs silver in the strange twilight. As I approached, that familiar scent grew stronger, Celine's unmistakable signature. But beneath it lurked something else that made my dormant wolf stir uneasily for the first time in my life, the metallic tang of blood and the sweet sour scent of approaching death. The abandoned trapper's cabin loomed before me, dark and foreboding against the strange half-light of the eclipse. Memories flickered through my mind, Celine and I, barely more than pups, playing at being hunters and explorers in these woods, our laughter echoing through the trees. Those carefree days seemed to belong to someone else now, someone who hadn't yet learned what it meant to be broken. I hesitated at the threshold, my fingers curling around the worn wooden door handle. Celine's scent was stronger here, but laced with something that made my skin prickle with unease, the metallic tang of blood and something even more concerning, the sweet, sour scent of approaching death. Drawing a deep breath, I pushed the door open. The interior was dimly lit by a single lantern, casting long shadows across the rough-hewn floor. My eyes found her immediately, and the sight stole the breath from my lungs. Celine, once so vibrant and strong, lay on a narrow cot in the corner, her golden skin now ashen, her bright eyes dulled with pain. But it was the small bundle cradled in her arms that truly shocked me. "You came," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I knew you would." I rushed to her side, falling to my knees beside the cot. Up close, the scent of illness was overwhelming, silver poisoning, my healer's senses told me. Deadly to our kind, and by the look of her, already deep in her system. "Celine, what happened? Who did this to you?" My hands hovered helplessly over her, wanting to help but not knowing how. No time, she said, each word clearly an effort. Take him, Iris. You must protect him. For the first time, I truly looked at the bundle in her arms. A child. A newborn with tufts of dark hair and eyes that seemed too aware for one so young. He watched me with an intensity that sent a shiver down my spine. This is Luca, Celine continued, her voice strengthening momentarily with maternal pride. My son. Damon's heir. The name struck me like a physical blow. Damon. The Eastern Pack's alpha. Celine's mate. A wolf whose reputation for ruthlessness was legendary. Celine, I don't understand. If this is Damon's son, why are you here? Why aren't you with your mate? A bitter smile twisted her once beautiful features. Because Luca has the shadow wolf, Iris. And Damon would destroy his wolf essence if he found him. The shadow wolf. I'd heard whispers of such things, rare wolf spirits that manifested with unusual powers. In ancient times, they were revered. In our more civilized age, they were often seen as threats to pack stability. But why come to me? I know nothing of children. I can't even shift. How can I possibly protect him from an alpha? Celine's fingers dug into my wrist with surprising strength. Because your emptiness is his sanctuary. Don't you see? Without a wolf of your own, you can mask his presence. Hide his nature until he's strong enough. Her voice dropped lower, more urgent. The silver was no accident, Iris. I was poisoned to draw out the shadow wolf, to weaken Luca. There are those who fear what he might become. The baby, Luca, stirred in her arms, making a small sound that wasn't quite human, wasn't quite wolf. Celine's attention immediately shifted to him, her expression softening with a love so fierce it was almost painful to witness. My beautiful boy, she whispered, pressing her lips to his forehead. You will change everything. She looked back at me, her eyes suddenly clear and piercing. Choose now, Iris. Return to the man who shames you daily, or save my son. I have no right to ask this of you, but there's no one else I trust. Her words struck something deep within me, a chord of recognition, of understanding. How many times had I dreamed of escape, of purpose beyond my daily humiliation? Yet fear had always held me back. What life could a defective she-wolf build alone? But looking at Luca's small face, something shifted inside me. A fierce, protective instinct I never knew I possessed surged to life. What do I do? I asked, my decision made the moment the words left my lips. Relief washed over Celine's features. With trembling hands, she held out a sealed envelope. Take this. Read it when you're safely away. There are 2 more letters hidden at these coordinates. She recited numbers that I committed to memory. The 3rd will explain everything. She transferred Luca to my arms, and the weight of him, so small yet so significant, sent an unexpected wave of emotion through me. He fit against me as if he belonged there, his tiny fingers curling reflexively around one of mine. Go north, Celine instructed, her voice weakening again. Beyond our territories. Find a human town called Willow Creek. Stay there until the first snow. She reached out, her hand cool and light as it brushed my cheek. You are stronger than you know, Iris. You always have been. I wanted to protest, to insist she come with us, but the finality in her eyes stopped me. This was goodbye. I'll protect him with my life, I promised, my voice breaking. He will know of his brave mother. A ghost of a smile touched Celine's lips. His life is your life now. Remember that. Her eyes drifted closed, her breathing growing more labored. I should have stayed with her, held her hand as she passed. But the urgency in her final instructions propelled me to my feet. Luca sensed the change, his tiny face scrunching with the threat of a cry. Somehow, instinctively, I knew how to rock him, how to make soothing sounds that eased his distress. With one last, painful look at my cousin, my childhood protector, my only true friend, I stepped out into the eclipse-darkened forest. The weight of Celine's body on that cot seemed to echo in my bones, the weight of her son in my arms a counterbalance of life against death. I moved swiftly through the trees, away from the only home I'd ever known, away from a lifetime of shame and neglect. Behind me, the moon slowly emerged from shadow, casting silver light on a path I'd never dreamed of taking. Ahead lay uncertainty, danger, but also possibility. For the first time in my life, I was needed. Essential. And that feeling, foreign as it was, gave me strength I didn't know I possessed. Luca's cry pierced the pre-dawn silence of my tiny hideaway, his tiny body arching with hunger as I frantically mixed the goat's milk formula I'd bartered for yesterday. "Shoo, little one," I whispered, bouncing him awkwardly while stirring. Just a moment more. 3 days had passed since I fled with Celine's child, 3 days of desperate improvisation. The abandoned ranger's cabin I'd found offered minimal shelter, but its isolation provided safety while I gathered courage for the journey ahead. Luca fussed impatiently. I tested the milk's temperature on my wrist, then cradled him against my chest, offering the bottle. His silvery eyes locked with mine as he drank, tiny hand pressed against my collarbone. His trust threatened to unravel me completely. I'd opened Celine's first letter that first night, her words filling in the gaps, her forbidden love for Damon, the ancient prophecy about a shadow wolf, the silver poisoning after Luca's birth. The northern pack had discovered her betrayal and hunted her. Her final warning chilled me: trust no one from either pack. His shadow wolf makes him vulnerable, an empty vessel like you is his only protection. I needed supplies from my quarters, medicines, clothing, emergency funds. The risk was enormous, but necessary. Dawn spilled through the windows as I finished feeding Luca. I burped him, then swaddled him against my chest in a carrier fashioned from an old shawl. Just this one last risk, I promised, securing my cloak over us both. The familiar path back to pack territory felt foreign now. I slipped through lesser-known trails, Luca mercifully quiet. The compound appeared unchanged, same buildings, same scents, same rhythm of pack life continuing without noticing my absence. My room remained untouched. Working swiftly, I gathered essentials. Luca stirred, making soft sounds that sent panic through me. The door crashed open. "What's that smell?" Gregor's massive frame filled the doorway, his scent clouded with confusion and anger. His eyes narrowed, tracking from my travel bag to the bundle against my chest. "Is that a child?" The contempt in his voice sparked something new inside me, not fear, but indignation. "He's my responsibility now," I replied, surprised by my steady voice. "We're leaving." Gregor's laugh was ugly. "Leaving? To go where? With a stolen whelp?" He stepped closer, nostrils flaring as he scented Luca. His expression shifted to recognition, then repulsion. "That scent, it can't be. That's the Eastern Alpha's blood." Dread pooled in my stomach. How could he know Damon's specific bloodline? "Get rid of it," Gregor snarled. "Now. The council will overlook your absence if we return it immediately." Luca whimpered, sensing the aggression. I positioned myself between Gregor and the child. "No." The word hung between us, small but inviolable. "What did you say?" Gregor's voice dropped dangerously, his partial shift beginning, claws lengthening, canines sharpening, eyes glowing amber. Once, that display would have sent me cowering. Now, I felt strangely calm. I said no. "We're leaving, Gregor. I release you from our mate bond." His face contorted with rage. "You release me?" He crossed the room, hand raised. you defective Baron. I moved with unexpected swiftness, ducking beneath his arm while keeping Luca protected. Don't touch us. My voice carried a steel never present before. Luca is under my protection. Touch him, and I'll ensure everyone knows how the second-in-command failed to detect the Eastern Alpha's heir within his territory. Gregor froze. Eastern heir? Impossible. He inhaled again, studying Luca. The child reeks of something wrong. Something unnatural. Those words confirmed my suspicions. He sensed Luca's shadow wolf. Something beyond your understanding, I agreed. Something the council might find very interesting. It was a bluff, but Gregor's expression told me it landed. His ambition had always been his weakness. You wouldn't dare spread such tales, he growled, though uncertainty tinged his scent. Try to stop me, I challenged quietly. Or let us leave in peace. Minutes stretched between us. Finally, his shoulders sagged. Take the abomination and go, he spat. But know this, once you leave Pack lands, you're nothing. Worse than nothing. Pray. The threat chilled me, but I kept my expression neutral. I've been nothing here for years, I replied, gathering my bag. At least now I choose my path. Luca let out a piercing cry. Gregor flinched, taking an involuntary step backward. His reaction cemented my determination. I slipped past him, half expecting to feel claws in my back. Instead, I heard his bitter laugh. You'll return. The human world will destroy you. What use is a she-wolf who can't shift? What mother can you be to any child, especially? His words faded as I walked away, head high. This time, I strode directly through the compound. Pack members stared at the sight of me, the defective, barren she-wolf, carrying a child. I felt their judgment, their whispers, but they washed over me without penetrating. As the pack boundary came into view, I paused, feeling the invisible barrier that had contained my entire existence. Luca stirred, his tiny hand pressing against my chest, directly over my heart. Yes, I whispered to him, we're going home. And with that promise, I stepped across the boundary and didn't look back. Careful now, support his head just so, Mrs. Finch demonstrated with weathered hands, adjusting my awkward grip on Luca. Newborns need that extra care. I nodded gratefully, mimicking her movements until Luca settled contentedly in my arms. 2 weeks in human territory had taught me more than years in the pack, like how little I truly knew about raising a child. Mrs. Finch, my elderly neighbor, had become an unexpected blessing. Her eyesight was too poor to notice my slightly sharper canines, and her loneliness made her eager to share mothering wisdom. You're a natural, she assured me. Just need practice. The tiny rental cottage creaked around us, humble but clean, with a garden where I'd begun planting familiar herbs. I'd purchased it with emergency funds saved through years of selling remedies to humans who visited pack borders. The transaction had been nerve-wracking, my lack of identification raising questions, but desperation made me convincing when I spun tales of escaping an abusive husband with my newborn. Mrs. Finch patted Luca's dark hair. Most folks mind their business here, she said. Keep to yourselves, pay rent on time, nobody asks too many questions. Though I suspect that handsome widower who runs the general store would like to know your story. I forced a laugh. Not looking for complications. After she'd gone, I settled into the rocking chair, Luca against my chest, watching sunset over unfamiliar mountains. Nights were hardest, my senses, though duller than full shifters, still detected sounds no human would notice. Routine helped calm those fears. I bathed Luca in a small basin, singing softly as his tiny fists splashed. I swaddled him in blankets I'd washed repeatedly to remove trace scents of our previous life. I prepared herbs to boost his immunity, developing formulas suited for his unique nature. Only then did I allow myself to pull out Celine's second letter. My hands trembled as I broke the seal, her fading scent still clinging to the parchment. My dearest Iris, her elegant script read, "If you're reading this, you've found safety with Luca. There is more you must know about the danger we flee. My silver poisoning wasn't accident or northern pack vengeance. It was calculated betrayal from someone in Damon's inner circle, someone who discovered our secret meetings and Luca's conception." My breath caught as I continued. "A female called Amanda, who serves as Damon's healer and hopes to become more. She began slipping silver into my tea when I visited the eastern compound, claiming it would strengthen our child. By the time I recognized the symptoms, the damage was done. She knows about Luca's shadow wolf heritage and believes eliminating me will clear her path to Damon, with my child as leverage." Cold fear crept up my spine as I read the warning: "Watch for signs of being followed, silver gray vehicles, honeysuckle scent marking boundaries, strangers asking too many questions. Amanda will not stop hunting us." I folded the letter with shaking hands and moved to the window, scanning the darkened street with new paranoia. Had that car passed too slowly earlier? Did the wind carry traces of honeysuckle? Luca stirred, sensing my anxiety. I forced myself to breathe slowly, pulling him closer, my cheek against his soft hair. When my heartbeat steadied, I retrieved my herb box, mixing protective sachets to hang at doors and windows, not powerful magic, but old remedies that might confuse tracking senses. Despite my growing fear, I found myself settling into new rhythms. Mornings in the garden with Luca nestled in a padded basket, afternoons adapting pack recipes to human ingredients, evenings rocking by the fire. My body, always too weak to shift, discovered new strengths in motherhood. My hands, once self-conscious about their lack of claws, found purpose in their gentleness. The emptiness that had defined me began filling with something unexpected, not pack belonging, but a sense of purpose I'd never known before. My sleep grew more peaceful despite the dangers. On the morning marking our third week in town, I awoke to Luca's soft cooing. I found him watching me with that strangely focused gaze, silver eyes gleaming in dawn light. As I reached for him, I noticed something different, a shimmering outline around his tiny form, visible only from certain angles. The shadow wolf, showing itself for the first time. Instead of fear, I felt wonder as I lifted him, watching the shimmer dance between us. "Your mother was right," I whispered. "You are miraculous." The moment shattered as a car engine idled outside my window. I peered cautiously through curtains. A silver-gray sedan sat at the curb, its driver obscured. A woman emerged from the passenger side, her movements fluid with predatory grace. Though dressed in casual clothing, everything about her screamed shifter, the alert scanning of surroundings, the confident posture, the way she scented the air. A gust of wind carried her scent directly to my window, honeysuckle, sharp and sweet. "Amanda." Panic surged through me even as Luca remained strangely calm. How had she found us so quickly? I retreated, mind racing through escape routes. The back door led to woods where a human couldn't track us, but a shifter would have no trouble. My only advantage was that she didn't know I'd been warned. I gathered emergency supplies, stuffing them into a backpack along with Celine's remaining letter. Just as I reached for my car keys, a knock sounded at the front door. "Iris, dearie?" Mrs. Finch called. "Are you there? There's a lovely young woman asking after you, says she's from your hometown." My blood turned to ice. I couldn't open the door without endangering my neighbor, nor could I leave her facing a predator. "Iris? Your cousin's very eager to see the baby." "Just a moment," I called, forcing lightness into my voice. My gaze fell on the herb cabinet. Working swiftly, I mixed a powder that would temporarily overwhelm a wolf's tracking abilities, creating a sensory blankness similar to my own empty nature. I dusted it over Luca and myself. Coming, Mrs. Finch. My hand settled on the knob, a peculiar calm replacing panic. For Luca's first weeks, I'd been running blindly. Now, facing direct danger, something shifted inside me, the same fierce protectiveness that had helped me stand up to Gregor, but clearer now. I had promised Celine to protect her son. I would not break that vow. With one deep breath, I straightened my spine, adjusted Luca securely in my arms, and opened the door to face our hunter.
I could smell her scent from half a mile away. Wild lavender and fresh earth, unique in its lack of wolf undertones. For a month, I'd been tracking her movements, keeping my distance while I gathered intelligence and planned this confrontation. Standing at the edge of her property now, I inhaled deeply, pushing past the protective herbs she'd scattered. Clever girl, to catch the milk-sweet scent of my son beneath it all. Something primal shifted inside me at that confirmation. Luca was alive, healthy. I signaled my hunters to surround the modest human dwelling, weathered but meticulously kept, much like its occupant from what my scouts reported. Remember, I growled to the men, no one touches either of them. I approached the door alone, not bothering to knock. This was a retrieval mission, not a social call. The moment I stepped inside, something unexpected happened. The emptiness I'd carried since Celine's death, the hollow ache I'd attributed to losing my son, suddenly eased. The woman before me was nothing like I'd imagined. My scouts had described Iris Blackwood as unremarkable, a defective she-wolf relegated to the edges of her pack. But the woman clutching my son protectively to her chest was anything but ordinary. Her eyes, amber gold despite her inability to shift, met mine without flinching, a rare response to an alpha's presence. She was slender but strong, her movements precise as she instinctively positioned herself between me and every potential escape route. More importantly, Luca looked healthy in her arms, his silver eyes, so like his mother's, alert and focused. Iris Blackwood, I said, tasting her name, cataloging her involuntary response to my voice, the quickened pulse at her throat, the barely perceptible intake of breath. You have something that belongs to me. My son. She didn't deny it, didn't plead ignorance. Instead, she tightened her hold on Luca and said simply, Celine gave him to me. She made me promise to protect him. Her words cut deeper than expected, resurrecting memories of Celine's final betrayal, disappearing while pregnant, taking my heir, my son, from me, his father. I demanded, unable to keep the edge from my voice. From anyone who would harm him, she answered steadily, her implication clear. I circled the small room, buying time as I processed this unexpected development. My trackers had prepared me to find my son with an incompetent kidnapper I could easily intimidate. Instead, I found a woman who had clearly devoted herself to Luca's well-being. The evidence was everywhere. The precisely arranged herbs for different ailments, the meticulously cleaned space, the way Luca relaxed in her arms instead of reaching for me. His blood father. Most telling was what my most trusted healer had confirmed. Luca's health deteriorated whenever my scouts reported Iris leaving him with a human neighbor. Something about this bond, this connection between my son and this wolfless woman, was essential to his well-being. I'd come to reclaim my son, to bring him home where he belonged. Now I found myself contemplating the unthinkable. I have a proposition for you, I said, turning to face her fully. Come to my territory. Be Luca's guardian there. The surprise that flashed across her face confirmed this wasn't what she'd expected. Threats, perhaps, or simply having the child taken from her arms. You want me to keep him? She asked, confusion evident in her scent. I didn't like feeling cornered by circumstances, and I liked even less having to make concessions to a defective wolf from a rival pack. My jaw tightened as I forced out words that tasted like surrender. Don't mistake this for kindness. He gets sick when you're not around. The bond is already formed. She stared at me, clearly trying to assess whether this was some sort of trap. Something about her scrutiny made me acutely conscious of every movement, every micro-expression that might betray my thoughts. "I need to think," she finally whispered. I nodded, surprising myself with this allowance. "You have until sunset. I'll be waiting." Outside, rejoining my hunters, I found myself strangely unsettled. This woman was nothing special, powerless, unable to shift, barren by all accounts. Yet she'd managed to form a bond with my son that even I, his blood father, couldn't break. More disturbing was my unexpected reaction to her. This strange lightening of the constant pressure behind my ribs that had been there since Celine's death. As sunset approached, I waited at the edge of her property, mentally rehearsing contingency plans should she refuse my offer. Behind me, Reeves muttered just loud enough to be heard, "Defective she-wolf, waste of our alpha's time." Something snapped inside me at his words. Before I could process my own reaction, I turned on him with a snarl that surprised even me in its ferocity. "Speak of her like that again, and you'll return to the compound without your tongue." The threat hung in the air, shocking my men into silence. When I looked back toward the house, I found Iris watching us, her expression as surprised as I felt by my defense of her. I turned away quickly, uncomfortable with the moment's significance. Then she was walking toward us, Luca secure against her chest, her chin lifted slightly in quiet determination. "I accept your offer," she said, her voice soft but steady. I nodded once, not trusting myself to speak as relief washed through me, followed immediately by confusion at its intensity. I'd come for my son, but was leaving with both him and this strange, defective woman who somehow seemed to fill a vacuum I hadn't known existed within me. This wasn't at all what I'd planned, and I never operated without a plan. As we headed toward my territory, I kept my distance from Iris, uncomfortable with how frequently my eyes were drawn to her, how my senses strained to catch her unique scent beneath the stronger odors of my men. Something was happening, something I didn't understand, and few things in this world frightened me more than the unknown.
I never imagined I'd trade one form of isolation for another, yet here I am, a month into my new life at the Eastern Pack compound, still as much an outsider as I ever was. At least in Luca's nursery, I've managed to create a space that feels somewhat like my own, neutral colors, familiar herbs hung in small bundles from the ceiling beams, and the comforting scent of lavender while I dab on his blankets each night. The room sits at the far end of the eastern wing, connected to Damon's private quarters through an adjoining door he rarely uses. Most days, I barely leave this sanctuary, venturing out only when necessary to collect fresh herbs from the gardens or to take Luca for brief walks in the enclosed courtyard. Even then, I feel the weight of curious and often hostile gazes following our every movement. The whispers trail behind me like persistent shadows. Empty moonbowl is their favorite term, delivered in tones ranging from pitying to disgusted. I keep my eyes down, my shoulders hunched, an old habit from my previous pack that I can't seem to break despite my promises to myself. Luca, now 7 months old, seems blissfully oblivious to our precarious position, thriving in ways that sometimes surprise even me. His silver eyes track movement with unusual focus for his age, and his happy gurgles when pack members approach suggest he senses their wolf nature in ways I never could. Most pack members tolerate my presence solely because of my connection to him, treating me with the same careful indifference one might show a useful but potentially dangerous tool. All except Damon, whose behavior continues to confound me. He visits daily, ostensibly to see his son, arriving at precisely the same time each evening like a man adhering to a schedule rather than seeking time with his child. At first, these visits were painfully awkward, stilted conversations about Luca's development punctuated by long silences. But recently, something has shifted. Now Damon lingers, asking unexpected questions about my herbal knowledge or my observations of pack dynamics. Most surprising is how he actually listens to my responses, his gray eyes intent on my face as if cataloging each expression. I've noticed contradictions that leave me increasingly curious, the stark difference between his harsh public persona and the man who spends hours reading ancient texts to Luca in a low, gentle voice. The intimidating alpha who rules with unquestioned authority becomes someone else entirely when he thinks no one is watching, his large hands impossibly gentle as he traces the curve of Luca's cheek or straightens a tiny sock. Tonight, unable to sleep, I find myself wandering the lesser-used corridors of the compound, following the scent of old books and parchment. The moonlight streams through high windows, illuminating my path to a chamber I've never entered before. The walls are covered in ancient paintings, wolves running beneath a silver moon, human figures with arms outstretched toward the sky, and most intriguing, repeated images of what appears to be an empty vessel receiving the moon's blessing. My fingers trace the outline of one such vessel, a perfect bowl waiting to be filled. "You shouldn't be here," Damon's voice startles me, though somehow I'm not surprised by his presence. He stands in the doorway, his massive frame blocking the exit, yet I sense no threat in his posture. "What are these paintings?" I ask, ignoring his admonishment. They seem to show an empty vessel as something sacred rather than flawed. His expression shifts, almost imperceptibly, before he deliberately changes the subject. "Luca was asking for you," he says, though we both know Luca is fast asleep at this hour, watched over by his night nurse. Nevertheless, I nod, accepting the transparent diversion rather than pressing for answers he clearly doesn't wish to give. As we walk back toward the nursery in silence, I become acutely aware of his proximity, the warmth radiating from his body, the rhythm of his breathing, the subtle notes of pine and smoke that compose his unique scent, underlaid with something I can't quite define but that makes my pulse quicken inexplicably. In the narrow passageway, our arms brush against each other, sending a jolt of electricity up my spine that makes me gasp softly. Damon freezes mid-step, his eyes meeting mine with an intensity that steals my breath. For a fleeting moment, I notice how our bodies unconsciously lean toward each other, drawn by some invisible force neither of us acknowledges. The realization seems to hit us simultaneously, and we hastily step apart, creating deliberate distance between us. Back in the nursery, I watch as Damon checks on his sleeping son, his broad shoulders tense beneath his simple black shirt. When he straightens and turns to me, his expression is carefully blank once more. "Good night, Iris," he says formally, as if the strange moment in the corridor had never happened. But as he passes, his scent envelopes me briefly, and I catch a new note within it, something warm and honeyed that wasn't there before. I find myself wondering, not for the first time, what secrets Damon Ravencroft is keeping from me, and why despite everything, I feel more drawn to him with each passing day. Later, as I lie awake staring at the ceiling, I contemplate the contradiction that is my life now, technically free yet still confined, guardian to a child not mine by blood yet connected to him in ways I don't fully understand, and increasingly aware of the alpha whose very presence seems to awaken something within me I thought long dead. Whatever game we're playing, whatever truths lie hidden beneath the surface of our careful interactions, one thing becomes increasingly clear: I am no longer merely surviving, I am awakening to possibilities I never dared imagine.
I wake to frantic pounding on my door, the scent of panic pulling me from sleep before my eyes even open. My body responds to the threat before conscious thought takes over, placing me at the door in one fluid movement. It's Mira, one of the nursemaids, her usually composed face crumpled with fear. "Alpha, please come quickly. It's the young one. He's burning with fever." Something cold and primal grips my chest. Before she finishes speaking, I'm already moving toward the nursery. The scent hits me halfway down the corridor. Sickness, sharp and metallic, undercut with something that raises the hair on my arms. When I burst into the nursery, Iris kneels beside Luca's crib, pressing a damp cloth to his forehead. His tiny body convulses with tremors, his normally rosy skin now a sickly gray. The room is crowded with pack healers, whose murmuring falls silent as I enter. What happened? My voice comes out harsher than intended. Only Iris remains focused entirely on Luca, not even glancing up. Silver poisoning, she whispers, her voice hoarse, just like Celine's letter warned. The assertion sends a ripple of shocked murmurs through the room. That's absurd, snaps Elder Moira. Silver poisoning is deliberate an attack. I move closer to the crib, breathing in Luca's scent more deeply. Beneath the sickness, there it is, that distinctive metallic tang that confirms Iris's diagnosis. Everyone out, I order. Except you, I add to Iris, and healer Kresh. Once alone, I ask directly, is it silver poisoning? Kresh examines Luca before nodding gravely. The symptoms match, but I've never seen it in one so young. Can you treat it? I demand, struggling to keep the desperate edge from my voice. The healer hesitates. Our traditional remedies are for adult wolves, for a pup this young. I know how to treat it, Iris interrupts. Celine left detailed instructions in case this happened. I study her face, searching for deception and finding none. What do you need? For the next 3 hours, we work side by side in desperate harmony. Iris directs us with surprising authority, combining her herbal knowledge with remedies from my library. Our hands brush constantly, passing cloths, mixing tinctures, checking Luca's burning skin. Hold him up, Iris instructs. His airways need to stay clear. I lift Luca's tiny body, cradling him against my chest as Iris administers the medicine drop by drop. His skin burns against mine, his silver eyes dull with pain. Don't you dare leave me, I whisper against his forehead. Fight, little one. Luca's eyes find mine, recognition flickering briefly before they close again. The fever should break soon if the treatment is working, Iris says softly, her hand coming to rest hesitantly on my arm. The gesture is so unexpected that I find myself leaning into it slightly. Our peace shatters as Amanda enters without knocking. I came as soon as I heard, she says, moving toward us. Let me help with the pup. Something shifts in Iris's scent immediately. Sharp wariness mixing with what smells like recognition. She moves subtly between Amanda and the crib, her body language protective. We have everything under control, I tell Amanda, noticing how her eyes narrow at my use of we to include Iris. The crisis is passing. Indeed, Luca's breathing has grown more regular, his skin cooling beneath my palm. As Amanda turns to leave, I catch a flicker of something in her expression when she looks at Luca. Not concern, but calculation. After she leaves, I find myself moving instinctively to position my body between the door and Luca's crib. Iris notices, her eyebrows rising slightly in surprise as she realizes I'm protecting not just Luca, but her as well. Our eyes meet over Luca's sleeping form, something unspoken passing between us. A tentative trust that feels both foreign and strangely inevitable. By dawn, when Luca's fever finally breaks, exhaustion hits us both. Iris sinks into the rocking chair, her eyelids heavy despite her efforts to stay alert. I should leave, return to my quarters now that the danger has passed. Instead, I find myself settling on the floor opposite her, maintaining a clear line of sight to both the door and the crib. You should rest, I tell her, my voice gruff with fatigue. I'll keep watch. She looks at me for a long moment before allowing her eyes to close. "Just for a moment," she murmurs, already drifting. I watch her in the growing light, the gentle rise and fall of her chest, the way her hand remains stretched toward the crib even in sleep, the unexpected strength I've witnessed in this supposedly defective wolf. Something fundamental has shifted between us. Whatever suspicions I harbored have been replaced by something I'm not ready to name. As sleep claims me, the last thing I notice is how our hands have come to rest on opposite sides of the crib, our fingertips nearly touching across the distance.
A week after Luca's fever, the compound has settled back into routine, though subtle changes permeate every interaction. Damon no longer maintains his careful distance. Now he joins our morning meals and sometimes lingers into evening, sharing pack histories in a voice that sends warmth across my skin. I notice Amanda's growing hostility, her perfect face barely concealing contempt whenever Damon's attention focuses on me or Luca. The formal summons arrives on heavy parchment, requesting my presence at the pack council meeting. Dread pulls in my stomach as I dress in my simple green dress and enter the imposing chamber with forced confidence. 12 stern faces watch my approach, and I immediately notice Damon's empty chair at the head of the semicircle. Amanda rises gracefully, her crimson dress emphasizing every curve as she addresses the room. "Thank you for joining us, Iris," she says, voice honey-sweet though her scent burns with satisfaction. "We've called this meeting to address a matter of great importance." The massive doors open behind me as Damon enters, his face unreadable as he takes his seat without acknowledging me. Amanda proceeds to the center of the room with deliberate grace. "Honorable members, I petition to formally request guardianship of the Alpha's heir," she announces. "The child has been in the care of Iris Blackwood, a wolfless outsider, but a child of such importance requires guidance from a true wolf." She turns to me with false sympathy. "Iris has done admirably given her limitations, but surely we all agree the Alpha's heir needs a real mother figure." Panic claws at my throat as Damon's expression remains impassive. "This arrangement would have political advantages as well," Amanda adds, turning to him with a familiar smile. "My bloodline's alliance with yours would strengthen the pack considerably." To my horror, Damon nods thoughtfully. "There is merit to your arguments," he says, each word striking like a physical blow. Something breaks inside me, all the fear and submission that's defined my life falls away, leaving only fierce, protective rage. I step forward, interrupting Amanda's triumphant smile. "I request permission to present evidence before any decision," I say, voice steadier than expected. Surprise flickers across Damon's face before he inclines his head. With shaking hands, I withdraw Celine's final letter from my waist pouch, breaking the seal that's remained intact until now. Her familiar scent fills the chamber as I unfold the parchment. "This is the last communication from Luna Celine," I explain. "I believe its contents are relevant." I begin reading, Celine's voice seeming to fill the room through my words. "My dearest Iris, if you're reading this, someone has moved against Luca. Trust no one, especially not Amanda Foxglove. She has been working with the Northern Alpha to eliminate my child and seize control of both territories. The silver poisoning that is killing me was administered through teas she prepared, claiming they would strengthen my pregnancy." Gasps echo around the chamber as I continue, detailing Celine's evidence, dates, conversations, intercepted messages between Amanda and the Northern Pack. Damon's face transforms from disbelief to cold fury, veins standing stark against his neck. When I finish reading, Amanda lunges at me with a snarl, but Damon intercepts her mid-leap, his voice deadly calm despite his shaking hands. "Restrain her," he orders. "Verify every claim in that letter. I want proof within the hour." The next 60 minutes pass in tense silence as council members review Celine's evidence. Finally, Damon's second-in-command approaches, face grim. "Every claim verifies, Alpha." She's been communicating with the Northern Territories for months, and we found silver dust among her possessions. Damon turns to Amanda, something terrible and ancient in his eyes. Amanda Foxglove, you are found guilty of treason against this pack, conspiracy, and the murder of my mate, Celine Starling. Amanda struggles against her restraints, panic making her voice shrill. You can't prove anything. That barren nothing is lying. Damon's roar silences her. The evidence stands. I sentence you to be stripped of your wolf connection and exiled forever from wolf territories. The severity of the sentence draws gasps from everyone present. Separation from one's wolf spirit is considered worse than death. As Amanda is taken away screaming, Damon turns to me. Counsel dismissed, he says, eyes fixed on mine. Iris, remain. When we're alone, he approaches slowly. You knew, he says. You suspected Amanda all along. I nod, throat tight. Celine warned me to trust no one. When Amanda appeared during Luca's fever, her scent matched one I'd detected on toys gifted to him before he fell ill. Damon closes his eyes briefly. And I nearly handed my son to her today, he whispers. If you hadn't spoken up. But I did, I say simply. And now she can't hurt him. He studies my face. Why didn't you show me the letters sooner? I meet his gaze steadily. At first, I didn't trust you. Then, after the fever night, I wasn't sure who in your circle might be involved. To my surprise, respect colors his scent. You protected my son better than I did, he acknowledges with unprecedented humility. Thank you. Before I can respond, his hand reaches out, gently tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. The brief touch sends warmth cascading through me. I think, he says quietly, we have much to discuss, Iris Blackwood. As he leads me from the chamber, his hand resting lightly at the small of my back, I realize I'm walking with my head high, no longer an outsider but something that feels startlingly like belonging. Damon leads me to his private study, a room I've never entered before. Unlike the austere council chamber, this space feels personal, walls lined with ancient books, a desk covered in maps, and surprisingly, a child's wooden block abandoned on a worn leather chair. The room smells of him, pine, smoke, and that's something that makes my heart race. A fire crackles in the hearth as Damon closes the door behind us. Sit, please, he says, pouring 2 glasses of amber liquid. I accept with a grateful nod, taking a small sip that burns pleasantly down my throat. I don't know where to begin, Damon admits, leaning against his desk rather than sitting behind it. Perhaps with what you know of the prophecy. I set my glass down carefully. Only what Celine shared, that Luca possesses a shadow wolf, something rare and powerful. That he could unite what was divided, but only if raised by. I hesitate, an empty moonbowl. Damon retrieves an ancient tome from a hidden panel behind his bookshelf and places it on the low table between us. This is our pack's most guarded text, he explains. It contains our origin story, not the sanitized version told to pups, but the truth about how the packs were formed and fractured. The pages contain intricate illustrations, 2 wolves, one black and one white, intertwined in perfect harmony. Our ancestors were not separate packs, Damon says, tracing the image. We were one people, guided by twin alphas who shared power in perfect balance. Their bond allowed for unimaginable strength. What happened? I ask, confused. Pride. Fear. The twins quarreled over succession, each believing their line should continue the leadership. He turns the page to show the wolves now separated. The fracture damaged something fundamental in our kind's spiritual connection. Over generations, imbalances began to appear, wolves whose powers grew too strong, and others. His eyes meet mine, others whose wolf spirit remained dormant, creating empty vessels. My breath catches. You mean people like me? Born to wolf families but unable to shift. Damon nods, turning to an illustration of a woman with an empty space where her wolf should be, reaching toward the moon. Your emptiness was never a flaw, Iris, he says gently. It was a vessel waiting to be filled. Our ancestors' broken bond created both your condition and Luca's shadow wolf. My fingers trace the prophecy page. When divided souls find each other, a child born in shadows will unite what was divided. I've felt it since first seeing you, Damon confesses. Like recognizing something lost that I didn't know was missing. A connection that makes no logical sense yet feels more certain than my own name. I felt it too, I admit. But why didn't you say anything? After Celine's death, after learning of her betrayal and Amanda's, how could I trust what I felt? How could I risk Luca's safety on instinct? The door opens, a nursemaid appearing with Luca. Forgive the interruption, Alpha, but the little one wouldn't settle. He keeps asking for both of you. Luca reaches toward us, silver eyes bright. Damon takes him, dismissing the nursemaid with a nod. Luca immediately stretches one hand toward me while keeping his other firmly wrapped around Damon's finger. When I reach for him, our hands form a perfect triangle of connection. He senses the bond, Damon whispers. He always has. What happens now? I ask, daring to hope. The traditional mating bond wouldn't work for us, Damon says. Without your wolf form, the ritual exchange would be incomplete. But there's an older ritual described in these texts, a soul bond that transcends physical transformation. It would mean challenging centuries of pack law, he continues, uncertainty threading through his scent. Many will resist the idea of a wolf-less Luna. I lift my chin. I've spent my life being told what I couldn't have. If this is real, what's between us, then I'm done accepting limitations. Damon's smile is transformative in its warmth. He shifts Luca to one arm, his free hand cupping my face with unexpected gentleness. Then we'll make new traditions, he promises. When our lips meet, the connection feels like completion, like finding a piece of myself I never knew was missing. The kiss ends with Luca's happy gurgle, leaving us both smiling. Damon's forehead rests against mine, his scent wrapped around me in a cocoon of belonging. I never thought I'd find this, he confesses. After everything, I'd resigned myself to duty without joy. And I never believed anyone could see me as whole, as enough. Luca reaches up, touching both our faces as if blessing our newly formed bond. The moonlight streaming through the window bathes us in silver light, creating a circle of protection and promise. Tomorrow will bring challenges, explaining our bond to the pack, preparing for resistance, protecting Luca as he grows into whatever destiny awaits him. But tonight, in this moment of perfect understanding, nothing else matters. I love you, Damon whispers, words I never expected to hear. Not despite what you are, but because of it. And for the first time in my life, I believe him. 5 months pass like a dream as winter melts into spring. I step into the sunlight wearing midnight blue ceremonial robes embroidered with silver moons, moving toward the ancient clearing where both packs have gathered. Representatives from every territory have come to witness the dual ceremony formalizing my bond with Damon and Luca's recognition as heir. The path here wasn't easy, heated council meetings, challenges from traditionalists, difficult negotiations with neighboring territories, but with each obstacle, Damon and I stood firm together, our strength multiplied when facing opposition. Most surprising was how Luca, not yet a year old, seemed to sense the importance of these struggles, his silver eyes following conversations with unnerving focus, his tiny presence calming tensions simply by reaching for both our hands. I pause at the clearing's edge, taking in hundreds of wolves arranged in concentric circles around a stone dais. Damon stands at the center, Luca balanced on his hip, his eyes finding mine with that private smile that never fails to make my heart flutter. The crowd parts as I approach, whispers following, wolfless still among them, but now often accompanied by Shadow Moon or the one from the prophecy. I spot Gregor among the northern delegation, his face contorted with shock at my transformation. He looks smaller than I remember, less intimidating now that I've found my own strength. As I pass, he murmurs, "Alpha's pet now? Still barren?" The words that once would have crushed me now slide off like water. I meet his gaze without flinching. "I've mothered the bridge between worlds," I reply simply, continuing forward without waiting for his response. When I reach the dais, Damon extends his free hand to help me up the steps, his touch warm and steady against my skin. The elder officiating the ceremony, a neutral alpha from a distant territory, steps forward to begin the ancient invocation. "We gather under the witness of moon and sky," he intones, "to honor bonds both chosen and fated." The ritual begins with Luca's recognition as heir. Damon holds him up for all to see, the child's silver eyes reflecting sunlight with unusual intensity. I present Luca Ravencroft, born of shadow and light, bridge between divided worlds, Damon proclaims. When sacred oil touches Luca's forehead, he remains perfectly still, his gaze sweeping across the crowd with awareness beyond his months. A collective murmur ripples through the assembled wolves as they sense the power emanating from this small form, proof of the prophecy standing before them. Then comes our bond ceremony, adapted from texts so ancient that even the elders had to be taught its proper form. As Damon and I face each other, hands joined over Luca between us, I feel warmth building inside, starting at my core and spreading outward. Damon's eyes widen, his nostrils flaring at the change in my scent. "With blood and oath, with heart and spirit, I bind myself to you," he says, voice tender yet fierce. "Not as wolf to wolf, but as soul to soul." As I repeat the words, the warmth intensifies into something I've never experienced before. When our blood mingles in the ceremonial bowl, passed between us 3 times, a collective gasp rises from the crowd. I catch my reflection in Damon's eyes. I'm glowing from within, silvery light emanating from my skin as if the moon itself has taken residence in my body. The empty vessel fills, the elder whispers, clearly shocked despite his ceremonial composure. Before the astonished gathering, my dormant wolf, suppressed for generations by the ancient fracture, finally emerges, not through physical shift, but as a luminous presence surrounding me in a silver aura. The crowd witnesses my transformation from empty moonbowl to shadow moon, the prophesied mate with power to complement the alpha's strength. As Damon's arms encircle me, our energies merge, his powerful wolf spirit flowing into my newly awakened one, creating balance long absent from our kind. "I see you," he whispers, voice thick with emotion. "All of you." Later, as celebrations continue around us, the 3 of us stand apart at the clearing's edge. Luca rests against my shoulder while reaching one hand to touch Damon's face. "He has your eyes," Damon murmurs, though we know it's biologically impossible. The silver sheen in Luca's gaze matches the aura that now surrounds me when emotions run high. "And your heart," I reply, leaning into his embrace. From here, we watch Eastern and Northern pack members cautiously mingling, centuries of division beginning to heal under Luca's unifying presence. There will be challenges ahead, teaching Luca to control his shadow wolf, integrating the packs after generations of separation, navigating my newly awakened powers. But in this perfect moment, I feel complete in our triangle, Damon, Luca, and me, creating the pattern that will heal not just our little family, but the ancient wounds of our entire kind. I catch Gregor watching us from the edge of the celebration, his expression surprisingly respectful. When our eyes meet, I incline my head slightly, acknowledging the full circle my life has traveled. "What are you thinking?" Damon asks, his breath warm against my ear. "That empty vessels make the loudest sound," I reply, quoting one of the ancient texts we discovered together. His answering smile is full of pride. "And yours will echo through generations." I turn my face up to his, the moonlight bathing us in its glow. Ours, I correct gently. Our sound, our legacy, our love. As his lips meet mine in a kiss that still feels like coming home, I know with bone-deep certainty that I've finally found where I belong, not despite what I am, but because of it. Thanks for sticking with me till the end. Like, subscribe, and let me know, what would you change, and what do you want to hear next? See you in the next chapter, my beloved listeners.